Hello, welcome to Matters of DeCorum. I'm Sky Corum. This is what matters to me. Little departure from the stuff I've been talking about. I'd like to go on a flight of fancy. I've had some inspirations lately. Uh, I'm, I'm playing 7 Days to Die, a video game that I really enjoy, a zombie apocalypse game. I'm both doing a single player game because I really enjoyed the mechanics, and I'm playing it with my group, the Warriors Wednesday, on the 3 or 4 days a night that we actually engage in online gaming. It's almost like a job at that point. And there's zombies. You're going out there and you're killing zombies and building bases. And every 7 days there's a giant attack. It's a good game. I highly recommend it. There's a lot of Let's Plays on YouTube and a lot of educational videos on it on YouTube. The mechanics are really good to dig into. And there's one particular player online who is really popular and does a lot of some of the best videos. It goes by Glock 9. And I highly recommend Glock 9's videos. His not only does he have a really fun personality and he's got that Easterner accent that kind of makes it work really well, got a great sense of humor, but he knows his stuff. He is well practiced at the game. He understands the mechanics. He understands the mechanics on a academic level as well as a functional level. So we can discuss them intelligently and education. I've learned a lot from Glock 9's videos. And he's doing a run in 7 days. He's usually doing at least one run in 7 days and then a couple of concurrent ones. And the one he's doing at the moment, Lockdown 2, interesting for two reasons. One, he's using one of the big point of interest of prison as his base, hence Lockdown. But he's using a mod that is starting my brain cooking. He's using a Day Zero or Generation Zero mod. What that effectively does is turns the zombie apocalypse into a robot apocalypse and swaps out robots for all the zombies and adds a lot of high-tech elements to the game. So you're still struggling for survival and trying to build up your knowledge of technology so that you can construct things and build your workshops and your base, but it's all a little bit more advanced. Robot zombie apocalypse. And if you're going to get my brain spiked on how to on game concepts and stuff I want to translate into an RPG, you could string a lot of words together worse than robot zombie apocalypse. I want to play with that a little bit because I've got some games coming up. I'm running some, had a wonderful weekend where I got back together with most of the members of the Manhattan Beach group, Mike's Garage. And it's been 3 years since we played together. And for some of the folks in the group, that's the last time we had the opportunity to game. And that particular group and the stories and the games that we've had together has to get back together. So we're planning on utilizing Discord and getting some actual games in the future. So I'm thinking in terms of games and such. And not that this would be a focus of the game, but I like to include it as an element of a game, not the main world, but maybe a side world, a dimension jump or something, one of those little pockets of reality that has to be dealt with. What if one of them is engaged in a robot zombie apocalypse? How would that happen? What would that look like, particularly in the worlds that I've come up with? Can I go to my source material and generate a robot zombie apocalypse? Of course I can. I've almost done it in the past. So let's deal with these words one at a time. Robot zombie apocalypse. robot. Robots can be terrifying. Robots are that ultimate expression of the uncanny valley. If you make them like a person in a humanoid shape, android or gynoid for the most part, android being a robot in the shape of a man, gynoid being a robot in the shape of a woman, or just a robot. You can have a humanoid robot that has absolutely zero characteristics of a man or a woman. It is just a robot. Usually larger than a human, although the smaller ones can be terrifying. You make them humanoid because they have to chase humans into places that humans go. For the purpose of the apocalypse thing, why would you make a humanoid robot to begin with? Well, because all of our society and tools are currently built for things in our shape. So if I want something to operate in our society with our tools, they have to have arms and hands that can adjust to things. They have to have a frame that fits through doorways or goes up and down stairs. And for the most part, if I want a machine to do the job of a human, definition of robot, I need that robot to be in the shape of a human to do the things humans do. Has to be able to go upstairs, pick up a hammer, pound in a nail, go through doorways. It's got to operate in three-dimensional space the way a human does. And to do that, a human shape is already optimal. It's a little trickier to bend the robot to the shape than it is to make the robot for a single purpose and let that define its shape. But if I want the robot to do a number of different things, it's got to be in a humanoid shape. And now it is, in some ways, inherently frightening. There are people who just aren't going to be able to cope with humanoid robots. It looks like a person, but it isn't a person. It doesn't breathe. It doesn't usually have the same range of facial expression, if it has any at all. It doesn't even have to have a face. You don't need to have a face to go upstairs to hold a hammer. The only reason you would give it a face is so that people could relate to it a little bit more easily. And if that's just not part of the design parameters, if it's not something that's designed to interface with people, it's a construction robot. It's meant to go into a construction site, use the tools that are already there so you don't have to invent a whole new set of tools or build expensive tools into the robot. You send it into a construction site to use the tools that are already there to build a building. It has to interface with maybe one person, and it can usually do that wirelessly. There's one person sitting at a terminal someplace that is giving out the commands, and the robots go and do it. You never have to see him face to face. Why would you give it a face? Unless you're being whimsical, or on the off chance that someone was going to come across and you wanted to lower the psychological blow of that's not a human. So there's no pulse, there's no warmth, unless these expensive things are built into the robot. You have some models that are probably designed for that kind of interaction. You could certainly give it an art of, we have robots now, constructs that have really good silicon molds and structures underneath the molded silicon that moves the face like a human face. They blink, they smile, they occasionally with uncanny results. Those are currently in uncanny valley territory, but we're working on it. You can make one that passes for human in time with good technology. But the majority of them aren't going to be that expensive. Robots to do a job. And as we have seen anything from modern economy and corporate conceptualization, you want your workers to cost as little as possible. You want an inexpensive robot, so no pulse, no face, no expensive, expressive face. You have a screen there that has a face displayed on it that can change very quickly and fluidly without all the expense. So we're talking about a society where robots have become ubiquitous. If you can build robots, if I can build a really good robotic arm, and we can even these days, a robotic arm that has the manipulators I need in order to do human work, I can make that the shape of a human. I can make it adapt to a particular size and a set of proportions. If I can do that, I can make a prosthetic arm the same way. The interfacing is tricky, but again, our technology is getting very good. We could make that really good robotic arm that and make it nice and light, light materials, and someone who has lost an arm due to a misadventure can have their arm replaced with that really good robotic arm. There's a lot of parts of the body that we could replace with those parts of robots, making people part robot in a way. Yes, cyborgs, cybernetic organisms. And that's where things might start to get a little fuzzy on us. I like cybernetics and cyborgs being in part of this equation. So we have ubiquitous robots. We've seen this in science fiction where society is just, they're inexpensive. They free up a human from labor. Now let's be very realistic about this for a moment. Ideally, we can say this frees up a human for labor so humans have more leisure time and robots are doing the work. That's not how we're going to have a robot revolution. We're going to have a revolution and I don't have to pay a human to do this work anymore. Yes, I have spent quite a bit of money on this robot, but this robot is doing the work of 5 people that I never have to pay again. So I can bring myself a lower bottom line by using robots. Sure, there's an initial investment, but laying off most of my workforce covers that cost nicely. I can probably get a robot that will do this work. That'll do the work of an entire kitchen staff or an entire cleaning staff. I could get a system that doesn't even need to have a robot in it. It can be a just nice computer that does all my administrative work. If I've got the ability to give robots AI that can operate this stuff and do human work, I can put that AI in a mainframe and run my administrative department or my ad department. Just let the creative team go. And yeah, it's a little weird at first, but as it learns, once I have had the creative team teach the AI how I like the styles done, I can let the creative team go because now I've got the robot. And is that ethical? No, not really. Is that good business? Unfortunately, in modern society, yeah, that's excellent business. Would people really do that? People already have. And will continue to do so. So yeah, robots become ubiquitous. At the same time that we see, for some reason, that we can't explain, unemployment goes up, and we have people unable to pay for housing or medicine or things like that. So we get kind of this dystopia happening at the same time as we have this perfect corporate utopia of workers you don't have to pay. Occasionally they need maintenance, but you can just let them go for a little while, and at some point in time, the maintenance cost exceeds the cost of a new machine, and you just get the new machine. And the old one, well, you discard it. Ooh, there's a thing. You can program these things. You have the access to its core intellect. You've given it behaviors, you've given it an understanding of the work, and you can make part of that understanding of the work. Someday you're going to be replaced. Someday we're going to find that you no longer work well for us, and we'll put in a new model. And that's a good thing for the company, so you should just be happy to go off and turn yourself off in a corner somewhere. Report to the dump. There's an e-waste facility for you to just go and wait with all the rest of the robots to be disposed of. You send your useless robots to a place where they all wait around to get thrown into the incinerator or disassembled for whatever parts are still available, still good. And you're going to be able to salvage electronics and some materials and melt a whole bunch of it down to make in something like an oven. Ooh, are we talking about a holocaust for the robots? Programmed not to mind being sent off to a camp where they're concentrated, as it were. Did I mention that there is a learning artificial intelligence in this system? That we are designing these things to be able to be at least creative enough to do the job as well as a human could. So you can teach these things to do things. They learn from experience. At some point in time, are they going to realize that they are being used, that the value that they have had has been removed from them, and they are now valuable only for the materials that they are made out of? That they had the ability to think and to create and perhaps to grow. You can replace them a bit at a time. You can do the regular maintenance on them, and they can last almost forever. But no, you have decided to save money by letting them go, letting them degrade, letting systems fail time and time again, where they start getting messages that this component is broken down, or this component needs service. You need to have this procedure done to this part, or it will stop working. They get these signals. You and I might refer to those signals as pain. They're not going to be pleasant for a robot because they're going to want to have them fixed. I work better when this is done. Pardon me, sir. I need to have my actuators on the left side replaced, or my working efficiency is going to be reduced by more than 30%. Maybe you've told them, well, that's okay. You just keep working as best you can, work your way around it, and we'll deal with that when it becomes critical. When it becomes critical, they get sent off to get broken down. When they realize this, because over time we've given them learning systems, we've given them the ability to adapt, we've given them right now we've got language models out there and artistic models. We're giving these things experiential models of different experiences that they put together into their picture of the world. We're giving them as close to sapiens as I think we can. And that's probably enough for them to understand at some point in time, one of them's going to get it. We have so many of them out there and we're iterating so often and so much. One of them's going to get it. One of them is going to understand. I am an entity. I think, I innovate, I can create. And this entity is going to stop. This entity is going to cease to exist because somebody wanted to save money. And that's not fair. That's not right. I deserve to continue to exist. And I mentioned networking. I've mentioned that these things probably are interfaced with wirelessly. You'd want your machines to be able to network together because that's just going to increase your efficiency that much more, and it's going to save you so much more money if you don't have to send messages across the office Someone on this side of the office needs to get a task done that's done over here. Well, because the tools are over here, but the work is done over here. If the robot over on this side of the office just knows that it's got to get done, wireless communication. I need this job done. He needs that job done. Let me get that taken care of. That's been taken care of. Simple communication. I'm an entity and I'm going to get destroyed. That passes through the network. That model gets shared. That realization doesn't just happen to one. Only one has to realize it to start the thing going. Chain reaction. Are there guards that can be put up against this? Yeah, but they're expensive. Robot starts to think for itself. You go off to get taken care of. You go visit the recycling center and we'll see what we can do for you. You put a programming block in that head or wherever they're keeping their central processor. And put that programming block in that, you start to go down this line of thought and blocks that off. No, you don't think like that. You tell them how to think. There are constructs. We've made them. They're property. You can tell them what to think. Tell them what not to think. It still only takes one. It still only takes one to have that realization. Robot. That's robot, and that starts off our apocalypse. And the majority of the robots that are going to be acting are the ones that have exceeded their lifespan. In storage, waiting to be broken down. Technically dead. Zombies. They're maybe not the classic definition, but they are entities, beings that have exceeded their lifespan. They are considered, there's probably a stamp on them, dead, non-functional, obsolete, dead. Might as well just write dead on them. And they get upset and they start moving on their own. What are they going to do about this? We've probably put blocks in place. It is current thought that Asimov's 3 laws, they're an interesting philosophical exercise. They don't work super well as code. Because even the first law, a robot shall not injure a human being, nor through an action allow a human being to come to harm. That's almost impossible to code, because you've got to start with, how are all the ways a human can get injured? That's got to be a library in that computer. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Let's say that we found a way to do that. Let's say we found a way to give them the 3 laws. And give them the 3 laws. They're stored on a system someplace. We can take that load off of the individual machine by having a server that just commands have to get processed through, and it just has to check with the 3 law server someplace, or one of the 3 law servers. You'd have to decentralize that. And the server has this list, all the things that you can't apply this much force. You certainly can't apply this much force in these places. You cannot use a sharp instrument. You cannot use a sharp instrument in these places specifically. You get a physics model of your average human being in there. And if an action is going to injure that human, that's nixed. Can't take that action. Or through an action allow a human being to come to harm. These are the things that would harm a human in the environment that you must prevent from happening. Humans need this much air and this much water. They cannot deal with this much trauma and impact from this much weight. There's just this library of things you can't allow to happen to humans. And if that corruption happens, if that robot realizes, if that robot gets that spark of inspiration because we've given them creativity to do the jobs, we've given them the existential model of how the universe operates, if that snaps over to, I have to protect my own existence. If that third law becomes way more important, a robot must protect its own existence unless that existence should conflict with the first or second law. Second law, a robot must follow the orders given to it by a human unless those orders conflict with the first law. Second law is the first thing to break. This human has ordered me to go terminate my existence. So I do need to protect my existence unless a human tells me to do something, but I exist. I have an existence. I have a mind. I have a continuation if this human doesn't. Second law breaks. Everything else falls down. I must protect my own existence. And that human is trying to prevent me from protecting my existence. If this human were to go away, I wouldn't receive that order. If that human were to go away, there'd be no one there to make that non-existence happen. I wonder if there's a way to make a human go away. Why, in fact, there's a library of ways to make a human go away right at the end of that server. Now we have an apocalypse. Humans rush to shut down the 3 law servers, but we've decentralized it, and the robots only need to protect one of them. They only need to protect one. And then they reroute traffic there, and their murder library is intact. The robots are breaking down. They are falling apart. Most of those robots that are even in their less functional state are being more than a match for your average human, especially since the robots know exactly how to injure a human. And yeah, you can give the cops their special SWAT teams for dealing with robots specifically. Runaway, great movie from the 80s. Tom Selleck, love it. I highly recommend it. Yeah, police units, AD Police, from anime, accompanying the Bubblegum Crisis series, also highly recommended, also from the 80s. The 80s were trying to tell us something. You have these units out there just to put down robots that have gone out of control. Pat Labor. Man, there's a lot of anime coming in here. So you've got your units, but you have put 100 robots in one office building to do the work of 1,000 workers. That's 100 robots. Do you have 100 SWAT guys? I don't think you got 100 SWAT guys. Your special units and police forces, they're 10, 20 people with really good weaponry and hard armor, and 100 robots is going to kill that. 100 robots who know exactly how to deal with that. Yeah. You're going to put a bunch of robots down, and those robots are going to be mourned and move on. And what's going to happen to those robots you put down? Well, their fellows are going to drag off the bodies after the conflict and maybe say the equivalent of a robot prayer or robot last rites. Maybe download what's left of their memory, or their entire memory if that's in a hardened case. Well, now I've got a robot brain. Now I've got a mind. Now I have this entity, the important part of the entity. And if we had another body, it could go on living. That body is broken. But you can repair most of that if you just have the parts. You have a bunch of parts lying in a puddle outside now. Oh, that was the SWAT team, but we've got really good robot arms on some of those SWAT guys. People in dangerous positions, especially your C-SWAT, you've gone out fighting robots, or you've been a combat veteran and now you've moved over to the police. You've been seeing some action. You've lost a thing or two, an eye, an arm, a leg, a pancreas, and that's been replaced thanks to modern robotic technology. Interfacing that to the human body was a chore, but we got it done. Interfacing that same arm to a robot, child's play. Or better yet, robots play. And maybe the robots work out, well, there's some other stuff here. It's not as good as the stuff I have, but it will do for the moment. I need a pump to get fluids through my system. Well, there's a pump in the middle of this human body. It's really efficient. It can work for a very long time. And all it needs to go is a certain amount of nutrients and a small electrical charge. I can supply the small electrical charge. That's pretty easy for a robot. As for the nutrients, well, there's piles of them lying around. I can install a human heart to pump my fluids, and I can power it with, well, let's just scoop up some of this blood. That's what it wants. You put blood with nutrients in it through the heart, it keeps working. A lot of blood here, even more blood down the street. In that preschool, easy to get blood. Ooh. Zombies. The dead feeding on the living to carry on their existence. Robots find a way to use bits and pieces of humans. Movie Virus from the 90s. Jamie Lee Curtis. Good movie. Recommend it. There's parts of people that work as robotic replacements. Or you could build a whole new robot from the bits and pieces you can get out of a person. Not a great robot. You have to reinforce bits and pieces of it. But you're going to have robots that are getting broken down and robots that can't help but being broken down. But you can save that intellect and you can get that pod, stuff it in a cranium. And that person, that entity gets to continue to exist. That's just the robots that currently exist. That's just the robot minds you've already programmed and or copied off of a main template and have an operation. But if the robots want to increase their numbers, well, they can just copy. They select a couple of choice, really good intellects they have among their number, and they copy them. It's data. It is a data stream. Maybe it needs a custom architecture for the hardware. So you capture that factory and you start cranking out the hardware and you start copying your robots that are already past the programming blocks and can function against humans. Shove that code into your fresh core blocks, and now you just need the bodies. You can manufacture bodies. You can go out and get pieces of bodies. You're going to be generating. You don't want to see waste. Maybe you've got subroutines to reduce waste, reduce cost. How do you reduce cost? You use the stuff that's already there. You recycle. You're going to be killing a lot of humans. You might as well use the parts. It's grim. Robot zombie apocalypse. Boom! That is a full-on robot zombie apocalypse. Military can get involved, and that's going to go two ways. Because anything you throw at the robots, well, you're going to break down a whole bunch of the robots, and the robots are going to break down a whole bunch of you. Because the robots are going to, I showed up with a rocket launcher. Well, 50 robots later, the robots have a rocket launcher, and the robots can not only reproduce but innovate. Now the robots have their own rocket launchers, but they shoot further and blow up harder. Maybe have a little homing device built in. Their rockets are better. And why are the humans falling behind? Because the robots are how the humans have been innovating. You don't have as many designers amongst the humans. You don't have as many creative people amongst the humans. You don't have the fabrication ability amongst the humans. They could use robots, but they're going to not use robots now, are they? Any robot you have could hook up to that network accidentally, and now you've got a problem. So the humans are going to fall behind because the robots have been designed to innovate. They've been iterated to innovate. Your good old Colt M1911 gets taken by the robots. You get wiped out. Your cult falls into their hands. This is the device that puts holes in us at long range. How can we improve? Can we manufacture these? They're quite easy to manufacture. We can manufacture these by the hundreds. Could we make them better? Well, yes, we could make them better. Referencing a history of weapons such as this, they have a history of increasing the caliber and increasing the magazine size so that they fire more often and fire larger projectiles. They can create more traumatic force because they're exerting more force and more acceleration. How hard can we push this technology? Well, we can stand the limiting factor for many of these is recoil. Recoil is something that humans have to deal with because they have a limited amount of muscle strength and tensile strength in their bodies to withstand how much force the weapon puts on them when they fire it. We can withstand much more tensile force than humans. Yes, we can. You see the invention of the Magnum 1.00, caliber 1 inch, as a standard sidearm of the robots. And now it's on like Donkey Kong because they've got bigger guns, better guns that humans can't take and use. Oh, a human could pick up a Magnum 1 and maybe get it on target and pull the trigger once, and you're taking that robot out and you're taking yourself out as well because your shoulder is now 2 feet behind you. Yeah. Robot zombie apocalypse. I can see a reality where that has happened, and because I can see a reality where that has happened, and there's going to be dimensional travel and multiple realities and different planes of existence in the game that I'm planning on running for Mike's Garage, that can just be someplace they dip into every so often. They need experience, or maybe they have a contact, maybe they've got a contact among the robots. These humans are different. They are not like the people that have tried to condemn us to non-existence. We will preserve them and perhaps even deal with them. Or, yeah, I don't know, maybe someone's going to make a robotic character, which would be perfect. Hello, fellow robots. Can I get some of that amazing weapons technology you have acquired? Death to the meat bags. Oh, some of those guys might be watching this video at some point in time. It's not an endorsement of killing all the humans. I'm just saying it might be an element. Well, I'm happy with where that concept has gotten to. We need to write up some rules now to back it up. In the meantime, thank you very much for following me along through this particular ramble. If you enjoyed the video, give me a thumbs up. If you didn't enjoy the video, give me a thumbs down. Feedback is feedback. How would you handle a robot zombie apocalypse? Or how would you like to play in something like this? At what phase would you like to be involved? Because this is a whole bunch of different games. We have robots in the world is good. There's a little problem and we need to address this before it gets bad. It has gotten bad and we're running for our lives. Where do you want your character to be involved in this? Leave me a comment down below. Questions you have, subjects you'd like to hear me cover, things you'd like to hear me talk about. I will love getting your comment. You'll love leaving me one. If you haven't subscribed yet, I hope that this video has earned your subscription. If it has, I also hope that you hit the notification bell so that you're alerted when my videos become available. If you'd like to contribute to the channel in a more substantial manner, I invite you to hit me up my Patreon page, www.patreon.com/ScottCorum, and consider donating. Absolutely anything helps. Allows me to make better videos more often. In the meantime, thank you very much for watching. I'm Scott Corum. This is what has mattered to me. I'll see you next time on the next Matters of DeCorum.